In this video, we're going to be continuing into part 2 of our Roblox turn-based combat RPG, complete with new enemy spawning and follow mechanics, as well as setting up player battles with enemies in the world, and also adding in new player data into our players folder so that we can have things like strength, levels, and items. Stay tuned. Alright guys, welcome back to part 2 of the turn-based combat RPG tutorial series. This is where the video series is going to start ramping up in just a lot. This video, so much we got to work on. This one might be a little harder than the last one, so I'll try to, make it easier, but I'll also try to be a little bit more entertaining when talking. I rewatched the first video and realized I sound like a zombie when I'm talking, so I'm going to try to talk a little more enthusiastically. I got rid of the AI thing, so that's hopefully not an issue for me. That's more of a me problem, but oh yeah. Alright, so I believe that the reason that all that just happened is because, if you can tell, basically my computer was lagging really hard. It still is, but I restarted the computer. I think the reason is because of I installed this fan reducer on my computer to make it so, because my computer microphone is right next to the fan, so I tried to reduce the fan noise because I listened to the last video and it sounded like it was like completely just drowning out my voice. I don't know if you guys really care, and I don't think it's really that big of a deal, but it just means you're probably gonna have to listen to my fan until I can get a mic that actually will not drown out every sound of my voice. So hopefully get that fixed, but for now you're probably just gonna have to listen to the fan. It might make this sound a little weird. Anyways, I actually don't remember what I said in the last before I cut the video, but basically 3 main things we're adding today is actual battle setup, so setting a scene or setting a stage for enemies and battling and stuff like that, adding player data and stuff like that, and then we're also going to be doing enemy spawning. So to get started, the first thing I want to actually do is I want to actually just move this back in a storage UI. I don't think there's any reason that we need to clone it, so my original plan was that we're going to clone it into the player, but honestly that just doesn't seem like a good idea. I think it's better just to have it always in player GUI, and it will be fine. Then we're going to do a few things. So first off, we're going to be going into player template. We're going to add in a few folders. So the folders we're going to be adding is, the first one is going to be called player data. The second one we're going to be adding is inventory, and the third one is currency. All of them seem pretty self-explanatory, except probably the player. Actually, I'm going to rename this to player stats. This one is basically just your strength, your level, your defense, all that stuff. And then inside of each one, we're going to do an inventory. We're going to add 2 folders. We're going to add money, and then we're going to add in tokens. So the way I want this to work, we'll do a video on, we're going to do some shops and stuff like that. That'll be just kind of an optional video, but we're going to have ways you can you can spend your money, because once you defeat an enemy, it will give you some kind of prize loot, and you're going to be able to spend that on stuff. Money is going to probably just be for weapons and armor and stuff like that. And then the tokens, I want it to be kind of region specific, so you can buy things that are only available in that thing. And then also I might do some kind of other kind of token where you can in Adventure Story, like I said last time, this series is pretty similar-ish to the way Adventure Story works. Basically, you can kind of spin your tokens for spells, which I think is a pretty cool mechanic. So we might do something like that in the future. I don't know exactly how we're going to do that. Anyways, and I also just realized that this should actually go in currency. Whoops. In inventory, we're going to add in a few things. We're going to add in 4 folders. We're going to add in armor. We're going to add in items. We're going to add in spells. And we're going to add in weapons. Boom. Next, we're going to add in to our player stats. And this is... we're going to be adding how many int values is that? We're going to add in 1, 2, 3, 4 int values. We're going to add in strength. We're going to add in defense. We're going to add in XP. And then level. Okay, and it would be a good idea to do like an XP to next level, but we're just gonna depend. We'll get into that later. That doesn't really matter right now. We're gonna do one last thing. We're gonna add in an object value, and we're gonna call this player. And when we clone this into our player, we're gonna basically be setting that value to our player itself. It's not a perfect solution, but it's an easy way for us to be able to access our actual player in the from like other scripts, rather than like having a like say we want to like access the player through name. It's just easy to have just this player value, and we can access our player through that. Anyway, so that's pretty simple. Now we're gonna add in another script in here. We're not gonna deal with it just yet, but we're gonna call it enemy spawning. There we go. And we're gonna let that be for a second. And I'm also just gonna rename this to player manager. And we're gonna, that's fine. So now what I want to do is I want to add in 2 folders into the workspace. I'm going a little all over the place for like things we're doing, but it will all make sense later. We're just setting up all our folders and all our data and stuff like that. So enemy spawns. We're gonna put all of our enemy spawns in here, and then we're gonna have folder enemies. And again, this is just where we're going to clone all our enemies to. And we're going to add in a folder into navigate storage, and we're going to also call this enemies. Boom. And then inside our enemies, we're going to add in a few things. We're going to be adding in one folder. We're just going to call this characters. Can't think of a better name other than that. And then we're going to add in a module script, and in this module script we're just going to call it something like enemy global. Not the perfect name, but it works. And I believe that is it for that. So now let's get started on coding. Actually no, first we're going to go into our enemies. I'm just going to have a region. We're going to call it grass. This will, just be like a basic starter place. I'm also going to call this grass. And we're going to add in a part somewhere here. I'll make this red as well. And then we want this to be cancelled off, anchored on. And we're going to call this spawn. That's fine. And in this, we're going to add in a boolean. And we're going to call this can spawn. And we're going to set it to true default. And in this, we're just gonna put it in our enemy spawns right here. And we're gonna actually just make this a little smaller. I think 2 by 2 by 2 is good. No, let's do 1 by 1. Wait. It should be 2 by 2. Yeah, 1 by 1 is fine. Let's just put this. Yeah, let's just move it up a little bit. That's fine. And let's move it down actually. Okay, there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put our basic enemy, and we're going to move them in enemies, and we're going to move them in characters. Actually, no, we're going to add in grass. Put them in the grass. Boom. There we go. We can close all these. And yeah, this looks pretty organized now. So let's get started on coding. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on our enemy spawning. This script is going to be pretty big. So let's just get to it. So we need a few things for our variables. We need local replicate storage equals game colon get service replicate storage local enemies equals replicate storage dot enemies local enemy spawns equals workspace dot enemy spawns. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to make a while true loop. Always make sure to have a wait in your while trues. And then we're going to do for underscore comma, we're just going to call it spawn location. The reason not spawn is because that's a reserved keyword, and I don't want to like redefine that. That's not a great thing to do. Enemy spawns colon, we're going to do get descendants just to be a little safer. If spawn location, see that's the default. Spawn location colon is a part, just for in case we have for some reason, whatever. And spawn location dot name equals spawn. We're gonna say if spawn location dot can spawn dot value equals true. Actually, we don't need this. We can just say if can spawn dot value. We're gonna do if math dot random 1,4 equals 4. Then local. We're just gonna call it a world. We don't need to call it anything crazy. You can name it whatever you want, but I'm just gonna refer to all my like different regions in the game as worlds. So local world equals spawn location dot parent, because we're parenting our spawn locations to this folder. That's the world. Local character world equals enemies dot characters find first child world dot name. If character world, then local enemies, make sure to make that lowercase because we already have this enemies right here, so it doesn't confuse it, equals character world colon get children. And then we're going to say for underscore kind of enemy in pairs enemies do. Now what we're going to do is we're actually going to quickly add in a new function, because we could just spawn an enemy, but we're just going to do a local function because I don't want to. We're going to say a local function spawn enemy spawn location and world. This is pretty self-explanatory. We're just spawning our enemy. Local new enemy equals enemy dot colon clone new enemy dot parent equals workspace dot enemies colon find first child world dot name. And then we're gonna do new enemy dot humanoid root part dot cframe equals spawn location dot cframe new enemy dot spawn dot value equals spawn location new enemy dot enemy folder dot enemy dot value equals new enemy, and spawn location dot can spawn dot value equals false. And then finally we're gonna say spawn enemy. Enemy is math dot random 1 comma enemies spawn location character 1. Alright, that should be it. And then also we should probably, let's just say like 2 right here. Alright, there we go. That's all this script is for now. Let me go over it. I'm sorry for like, you know, talking and just like, or just writing the whole thing. But basically the way it works is what we're doing right here is we're basically looping through this so it happens every 2 seconds. We'll change it later, but for now we're just, for testing we're gonna do 2. Basically we're looking through our spawn location folder, which is the enemy spawns, and we're just going through all the folders, and we're basically checking if we find a part that has a spawnable part and the can spawn value is true. Basically what we're going to do is we're going to just get a 25% chance to spawn an enemy, and this basically just like figures out what enemy to spawn by looking at the available enemies in that region. So like let's say we had some kind of like grass monster enemy, well we would look through the grass folder, and we're basically just looking through the grass folder and picking an enemy at random. So we're basically gonna have a bunch of enemies to choose from, and it's just gonna randomly put an enemy there. So this part is the part that chooses what enemy to do. Actually, it's this part right here. And then this basically, what we're doing is we're basically taking, based on a parameter, which is the parameter of the random enemy from the folder. Basically what we're doing is we're cloning it, putting it in the enemies folder based on its name, based on the world it should be in. We're just setting its position to the spawn location position, and then also we have some stuff we have to add that we have not added yet, so we're gonna have to do that in a second. This stuff we are going to, actually, this stuff we're gonna add in right now. But if we just comment this out right quick, it should run. If it decides to run. There we go. Okay. Waiting. You know, we're gonna make this more likely of a chance, so we're just gonna say if Actually, we're gonna wait 0.1. And we're also gonna add more spawns. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting spawns. There we go. So now, if we go into the enemy spawning, and now we just change this to like every 5 seconds, and we run it, we're already getting some people spawning in. That guy spawning. And it looks like no one else wants to spawn in. If I duplicate these, actually. There we go. So yeah, now that we know that NSP spawning is working, let's quickly add in this thing I completely forgot about. Basically, as well as the players are gonna have these player folders. We also need the enemies to have the folders as well. So we're gonna go into basic enemy. We're gonna call it. Well, actually, folder first. We're gonna call it enemy folder. We're gonna have to rename the folder once it's Actually, we're gonna have to rename all the enemies once we're actually in a battle. That is for a future video when we set up battles properly. In this video, we are going to be setting up battles. It's just going to be very janky and like loose, and there's not going to be any like functionality. It's just going to be set up. We also need an object value in here, and this object value is going to be called spawn. And also, now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, never mind actually. In the enemy folder, we're going to have a few things. We're going to have 1, 2, 3 folders, and we're gonna have a object value enemy. The reason we're gonna keep this enemy value blank, and the reason we're keeping it blank is because when we clone the enemy, well, we technically could. I am not actually fully confident that works that way. But we're basically doing similar to how we have a player value in our enemy folder. We parent, or we make the value to the player of our enemy, which I don't know if we did yet, so we're going to do that next. We're basically going to have a pointer to our enemy. You guys will see why we do this later. Anyways, we're going to do stats. We could call it enemy stats. I'm just gonna call it stats, loot, and inventory. For now, we could probably keep. Well, let's just add them in. So we need in stats. We need an int. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're gonna do XP. We're gonna do strength. We're gonna do level. We're gonna do defense, and we're gonna delete this one because I did not mean to add that one. I didn't need that one in my place. So bull value. Also, the way I'm making this series, also we're gonna call this infight. The way I'm making this series is I'm pre-making the actual game before I make tutorials on it. So I'm basically just copying a template that I made. So I have to go back and forth, and it doesn't really matter. But for loot, we're going to be doing items, and then we're gonna have, we'll just do 2 ints. We're gonna say money, loot, and we're gonna say grass, tokens. Inventory, we're gonna say the same things for this guy. 1, 2, 3, 4. armor, items, spells, I can spell, weapons, and there we go. So we got all that. We're set. I believe that's all that we need for the enemy. Just make sure, I don't actually fully know if we did this right, but hitbox can collide should be off, and the anchor should be off. Make sure to keep can touch on, because we do need that on. Can collide should be off though. Anyways, let's close that. We can go into here, or not here. We can go into our enemy spawning script, and we can uncomment these out now. And it will work the same. Only difference is that when enemies spawn, there is going to be two things that are different, and if it will load. Come on now. There we go. So in our enemies, there's a few things that are different. So in the spawn, you're gonna see the value of spawn. It will know what it is, but even though they're all named spawn, it will know. Can fight actually should be in stats. We're gonna move that in a second. Actually no, that's fine. And enemy should be, there you go. Alright, so next what we're going to do is, let's actually just make a few more of these now that we're, let's just move these around the map. And now we can test, run it. We can see all the enemies are spawning, and right now they're pretty static. There's not really anything we can do with them. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make them move around, and we're gonna make them chase us, which is kind of fun actually when we actually make it do it. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into our enemy global. And in this, we are going to be creating one function. Module dot find target. And then we're going to pass in two parameters. We're going to pass in enemy, and then we'll just say distance. We don't really need to change the distance based on the enemy, but you know, it's good in case we have like a really big enemy and we want to make the distance like a little bit bigger. We're gonna say local humanoid root part equals enemy dot humanoid root part. And then we're just gonna create a empty variable called local target for underscore comma v in pairs workspace colon get children. In this, we're going to be creating another humanoid root part, but we're just going to call this whom root equals v colon find first child humanoid root part. If whom root is found, then we're going to say local player folder equals game dot replicate storage dot players colon find first child whom root. Actually, we can actually do a different thing. Well, no, we're just gonna say this whom root dot parent dot name. If whom root dot position minus humanoid root part dot position dot magnitude is less than or equal to distance, and we're gonna say not player folder dot player stats dot infight dot value. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna set target equal to whomroot dot parent, else target equals nil. At the very end of this function, we're gonna just return target. Perfect. Now I actually need to make sure we need to add in something I might have forgotten to add. We need infight. So we're gonna add in a Boolean value, and we're gonna call this infight. Infight. Not not in fought, in fight. There we go. So now we're gonna go into our enemy that we made. In the future, we might do a thing where we take that enemy folder and then also the script I'm about to make, and we just copy it into every enemy rather than make one for each one. Might be a little bit better, but for now this is fine. We also can get rid of the infight for this one, since we already have a can fight. In this script, we're just going to call this script enemy. And in this, we are going to say local enemy equals script dot parent, local humanoid equals enemy dot humanoid, local enemy folder equals enemy dot enemy folder, local infight, I'm just gonna say local can fight equals enemy dot can fight, local replicated storage equals game colon get service replicated storage, and local enemy module equals require replicated storage dot enemies dot enemy global. Perfect. We're gonna do another while true in this one. We're gonna say while enemy dot, actually we can just say while can fight dot value equals, we can just say that because it's always checking for true anyways, and this has to be a do. We're gonna say local target equals enemy module dot find target. We're gonna pass in our enemy, and we'll just say for now I think 20 should be good. If target is not equal to nil, then we can just say humanoid colon move to target dot humanoid root part dot position. This would work well. This would work fine, but we also want to do one thing where we if the player runs too far away, then we don't want the guy to continue moving forever. So we want him to go back to his spawn. So we're just gonna say if enemy dot humanoid root part dot c frame is not equal to enemy dot spawn dot value dot c frame, then humanoid colon move to enemy dot spawn dot value dot position we're gonna say humanoid dot move to finished. And then we're gonna say enemy dot humanoid root part dot orientation equals enemy dot spawn dot value dot orientation. And we'll just do a wait. Okay, that's the script. It's a lot, especially if you don't know how it works. Basically what we're doing is we're checking. We might not ever use this can fight value. This is just in case we need it in the future. While can fight, then basically what we're going to do is local target. All we did was we basically checked to see in find target if it can find a object with a humanoid root part. Now, we should have done a get player from character. We might have to in the future now that I'm thinking about it, but for now it's fine. Just know that if your spawns are too close together, the enemies are might run at each other. So that might be a funny thing that happens. So just be careful about that if that's what's happening to you. Basically, we set the target to nil if it can't find anything, or if it can't find the humanoid root part. But if it can, basically we're just gonna have our character move to the target dot humanoid root part dot position. And otherwise, this part's not fully needed just for safety reasons. Humanoid root part, or not humanoid root part, humanoid to move to, we're moving to back to our spawn location. This, basically, if you run this, it's basically gonna run this, and your character and the humanoid guy thing is gonna still move, but it will continue on to the next line. This basically just makes it so that this has to wait. This next line has to wait for this line to finish. And yeah, let's test it. And it looks like we got a requested module experienced an error while loading. That's awesome. Okay, it looks like I found the problem. The reason is because I had a typo here in the enemy global. I just had a typo where I accidentally wrote random for some reason. I don't know how that happened. But now, your guys' might have worked if you guys didn't type random on accident. But, now if I load. When I run up to them, index nil with player stats. I know what the problem is. Dot players. I don't know if you can actually. There we go. That should be dot players. Now it should work. Fixing typos, awesome. Hopefully you guys don't make the same mistakes I do. That'd be awesome. Be way better than I am at any sort of typing on a keyboard. And now it should work. So now you can see it's not animated because well, that's kind of fun. We're training them like in that one Call of Duty game. So yeah, so here's what we had to do. There's the thing about it is that since they're the same speed as us, we're never gonna actually run away from them fully. So what we can just do is we can go into humanoid, and we can just set their walk speed to 12. That should do it. And now what we can do is we can run away from them, and they should be going back to their spawn location. So run up to basic enemy number 1. Run away, 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 run away. Goes back, runs back, and he's in the right orientation. We love that. Alright, now that we got that working, we're going to work on one last thing before the video ends. We're going to be working on setting up battles. So, if you saw in the intro card of the video, you'll see that the way it works is you encounter an enemy, and it will basically put this like little loading animation, and then you're set up in a kind of battle setting. Before we do that, let's make there a little bit of a bigger distance between all of these. So let's just move this here, move this here, and that looks good. So we can actually move the spawn location a little further back, and alright. So that's kind of like an affinity. That's kind of funny. We're gonna go in back to our Surge UI. We're gonna go into our Battle GUI, and we're gonna redo this. Ignore this thumbnail. That's just for videos. We're gonna make 2 new frames. We can actually just duplicate this frame. We'll say loading, and we'll make another one, and we'll just say main menu. Usually I'd call it buttons, but we're just gonna call it main menu in this case. Loading. Let's make this untransparent. Why is this not? Oh, it's not enabled. Oh yeah, make sure to have ignore GUI snet. I never can figure out how to pronounce that, but ignore GUI set. That basically, there's just the like border where you can like exit the Roblox game. There's a border up there, and if you make a frame that's like the size of the screen, when you actually play, it ignores that thing. So if you have it off, you'll see it later. If you have it off, but let's basically this. Why is this off? Enabled. Let's quickly make this loading. Quickly go to Z index, and we're gonna do Z index. Z index, and we'll make it 2. And then for the background color, let's see what color I made it last time. I kind of like a blue better, but I guess we'll do 75 to 55, 86. That's just a green color. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to position, and we can just do -1. And that puts it off screen above the like viewport. Main menu, that should be fine. Now we're going to add in a local script. I don't know what we're going to name this. We can just say GUI manager. I don't know. We're going to do quite a few things. We are going to quickly, before we do this, we're going to go into remotes. We're going to go into functions, and we're going to add in a remote function. We'll name this trigger client battle. That's fine. And yeah, that's all we need for that. So actually, before we do that, let's actually go into our battle module first. So last time what we did is we had this setup function right here. We're gonna let's start by renaming this. I don't like setup because that implies that we're setting up the whole thing. So let's just call this generate battle. That's fine. And I want to quickly add in one thing real quick. I want to go into right in between here. Let's just say local prize pool equals instance.new folder. Prize pool dot parent equals new battle folder. And we'll say prize pool dot name equals prize pool. That's pretty obvious what it is. I don't think I need to explain it, but just in case, it's where we're gonna have the loot rewards when you win a battle. So we're gonna make a new function. We're gonna call it function module dot, we'll just say set up world. This just means that we're setting up a quote-unquote world battle, is what I'm calling it. And we'll need 3 parameters: player, enemy, and battle. In this, we're gonna say new player equals player colon clone, local new enemy equals enemy colon clone, uppercase. And we're gonna say local new player dot parent equals battle dot team1, new enemy dot parent equals battle dot team2. In the future, we're gonna not do it like this. We're going to have a function where we individually add in a this also should be battle. We're gonna individually add these, but for now, for testing, we're just gonna do it like that. We can say a local character equals player dot value dot character. That might not make sense, but it will in the future. Character dot humanoid root, nope, not root part, walk speed equals 0, and then we can just say character dot humanoid dot jump height equals 0. And then now what we can do is we can just go ahead and say local function. This function, we're just going to make a local function because we don't really need it to be anywhere else but in here. So we can just say local function trigger client player. And then we're going to add in the second one. We're going to call this kind. This allows us, if we have setup world, we can also have setup boss fight if we want this boss fights to be set up slightly different. Or if we want PvP battles, if we want to set up the PvP battles slightly different. I'm going to just say kind for now. This is going to be, we're going to be triggering it to be kind. Hold on, just new player dot value, sorry for saying that, and then we'll say world. And we can actually also say right here new player. It doesn't really matter, but it's the same thing. In this, we're going to say remotes do I not have remotes here? Local remotes equals replicated storage dot remotes, and we'll just also say this for bindables. We can say bindables. There we go. Remotes dot functions dot trigger client battle colon invoke client player comma client. Alright, now that we got that, let's go back into GUI Manager and let's start working on this. So for this is basically we're gonna do some event handling for the function. Technically it's not an event, but we're gonna do some handling for the function right here, and we're gonna need some tweening. We're gonna need some. That's about it. So let's do local replicated storage, and actually we can just go into battle module. We can copy this. Now we need a few more things. We need tween service equals game colon get service tween service. We need local main equals script dot parent colon wait for child. Because this is a local script, we need to do wait for child just to be secure. And local main menu equals main, not math, main colon wait for child main menu. Lastly, we need the loading screen. Local loading equals main colon wait for child loading. Okay, so for now, let's set this to default as not visible. We're gonna also make this by default not visible. We'll enable it when we come into this. So we're gonna say remotes dot functions dot trigger client battle dot on invoke on client invoke equals function kind. We don't really care about the kind right now, but for now we'll just keep it in there. We're gonna say script dot parent dot enabled equals true. We're gonna say a local tween equals tween service colon create loading tween info dot new 1 position equal make sure to spell position right. This is really hard. Position equals UDIM2 dot, and then we're going to say from scale, we're going to say 0.5, 0.5. We're going to say tween colon play tween dot completed wait. Now let's test this. If it wants to load. Let's walk up to an enemy. And it didn't trigger. And the reason it didn't trigger is I figured out why, and it's because we missed a very important step. Let's go back into Player Manager, and I totally forgot about this part. We need to fix some stuff in Player Manager. What we're gonna do, we have to there's like a whole script we have to write. Local replicated storage equals game colon get service replicated storage. We forgot to make the actual touching the enemy hitbox makes it so that triggers a battle. So we're gonna do a few things actually now that we're here. We're gonna add in this. We're gonna say new player folder dot player dot value equals player, and then we're gonna say a local folder pointer equals instance dot new object dot. So we're actually creating a new thing. We're going to put this inside of our player. That way, if we need to by any chance, we can access our player folder by our player in player service. So we're just going to say folder pointer dot parent equals player. Folder pointer dot value equals new folder player, new player folder, and folder dot name equals folder pointer. Boom. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do just some basic handling of this. So we're just going to say player dot character added colon connect function character character dot humanoid dot touch colon connect function, and then we're going to pass in the hit parameter. If hit dot name, we're going to say hitbox and hit dot parent colon find first child can fight. And hit dot parent colon find first child enemy folder. Then we can say if hit dot parent dot can fight dot value, then we're gonna disable the hit dot parent dot can fight. I don't know why it keeps wanting to create new lines. And then we're just gonna say replicated storage dot bindables dot events dot start battle colon fire. And then we're gonna pass in a few parameters. We're gonna say new player folder. We're gonna say hit dot parent dot enemy folder, and then we're just gonna say world. And then new player folder dot player stats dot infight dot value equals true. And there we go. So now that we have that, we should be able to test it now. That was a complete colossal screw up on me for totally forgetting what that whole script we had to write. But it should be working now. If it wants to work, never wants to load. I don't know why. We're gonna walk up to this guy, and we got an error. Then to call nil value, we're gonna have to add that too. In main battle, we're gonna have to add something too. In this, we're gonna add in a few things. We're gonna add in player, enemy, and we're gonna add in kind. We're gonna say local battle equals battle module.setup instead of doing it the way we had earlier. Actually, it's called generate battle now. If kind equals world, then battle module dot setup world player enemy battle. Run this. I can guarantee it's gonna work now. And there we go. We get this green screen. It's gonna go down for a couple seconds. It's never gonna come back up. And the reason why is because we never actually made it go back up. So that's where the next part of our script comes in. So now that we have the going down, we're gonna make it go up. So we're gonna actually, for now, we're just gonna make this semi-transparent. And we're gonna say script.parent.changed colon connect function We don't have to put in a parameter here, we could, but we're just going to say if script.parent dot enabled equals true. Then let's wait. Let's actually wait 2 seconds since this takes 1 second to run, and then we can say main menu dot visible equals true. We'll say wait. Let's not wait for too long. We can just say like wait for, and then we can just, let's just copy this. We don't have to make it a variable now. We can just say :play and just change this to -1. And now you run it. It's gonna run after me. So now this is semi-transparent. This is going to appear while this is down, and it comes up, and now we're good. Now one last thing before the end of the video is we're gonna make it so that right now we're just kind of in this place. So we're just gonna add in 2 lines. We're into our battle module. And they're gonna be kind of long, so we're gonna say new enemy dot value dot humanoid root part dot c frame equals new enemy dot value dot c frame. That's that one. So now we're gonna do almost the exact same thing. We're gonna say new player dot value dot character dot humanoid root part dot c frame equals new enemy dot value dot c frame. We're gonna do one thing differently about this one. We're gonna say times c frame dot new. We'll go back. We'll just say like 20 studs is fine. And then we can say times c frame dot angles 0, and then we can just say math.pi here. This is the equivalent of 180 degrees in something called radians, which is just degrees but in terms of pi. And that is all we need. We can run it one last time. We can run over to our enemy. And when it catches us, and C-frame is not. So I knew I was gonna mess up something, so we're gonna figure out what I messed up wrong. This should be dot value dot spawn dot value, and this should also be dot spawn dot value, and that should work. I didn't mess that up, so I'm glad it was only like one thing. Hopefully it's not another thing. Walk over. Spawn is not a valid member. Okay. It's awesome. Yeah. This should be dot value. Alright, let's go over to see if it's gonna work. We walk over, he tries chasing me. That one actually leaves, as you can see. The attack goes up, and we are positioned in the right spot. So looks like everything is working right now, which is great. I'm excited because next video, a lot more is gonna happen. This is kind of a longer video than last video. Last video was kind of just an intro, kind of a pilot episode type video. It wasn't actually like, wasn't a lot, just for the sake of, you know, having a quick thing that we can do. So I don't know exactly what we're gonna work on next time. I'll figure out what we're gonna work on. The video probably won't release for a little bit because some stuff. So yeah, pretty eventful video. I think we got a lot done. I think it's going pretty good. I think in the future, I think I want to do, there's like a lot of features I want to add in this tutorial series. There's a lot of features I want to add that aren't turn-based combat specific. I want to add, like, you know, party system. I want to add trading items. I want to add shops. I want to add, you know, cool boss mechanics. I think next video we're gonna probably work on camera setup, animations, improving the UI, you know, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you watched to the end, thank you, appreciate it. And with that, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.